like my shop vac full of sawdust. We're going to empty that out, get going again. Shop vac got full of sawdust. Now we're going to take my other small one I keep with the miter and just kind of vacuum up this mess for a minute. Last few days, when I started doing my mortises for my through tenons, at night when I was getting ready to go to bed or eating dinner, I was getting hives all under my armpits, around my waistband, around my neckline, and I'm pretty sure I'm allergic to Western red cedar. Got another table to build to do after that in this, and antihistamine at night has been knocking the rash out and knocking me out as well. Been sleeping pretty good. Wake up with no rash at all, but it's like hives. It's like aggressive at night, and it can cause respiratory problems too. And I should be wearing a mask, or in fact I'm going to put that mask on for the rest of this. I have been wearing it some, and when I was doing the mortise and tendons cuts, I did wear a mask a lot of the times. Didn't create a whole lot of dust. There's a lot of shavings, a lot of oil, and I think it's from the oil getting in my skin. It's just going through my system, because it never did get up in my armpit areas, but I broke out like crazy in those areas. Well, we're going to get going again here, planing these tabletops, and try to get everything smooth and even and as possible. And I'm doing this without a joiner as well, but I do have a track saw. I'm going to cut the edges of the boards with the track saw and try to straighten the boards up that way. If not, a friend of mine down the road has a joiner I can borrow until I can get one. Or I can go over to his shop and joint the boards there, straighten them up if I can't get them straight enough with the process I'm going to try to perform here. Joiner, I'm taking a track saw that I purchased Makita. I kind of went gangbusters and bought a bunch of Makita stuff, getting set up for doing my woodworking, because I just haven't been doing it. Been in the automotive industry all my life, just branching into this. This is I'm learning as I go type deal. But I don't have a joiner, which is another plan. Just haven't found one. So I put a long track saw. It's basically just a circular saw that runs on tracks. I bought a 118-inch track and I bought a 55-inch track. The 55-inch came with a kit. 118 I had to buy separate, and it came in this crate, and I'm using the crate just as a work table. And so far it's working out pretty good. I've only made cut the edges off one board. Just thought I'd set it up and let y'all see how it works. Just sits in the grooves. It's got a lock. You could do miters with it. It's pretty nice. I'll pop a couple fresh batteries in it since it's getting a little low. I like these Makita batteries. They have a button on it to tell how much battery level you've got, and when you've got it on the machine, you can do the same. has a button in the middle, which I'm not going to take the camera off the tripod. I'm filming all this by myself. But you hit a button that shows you both battery packs. It will not work unless you have both battery packs on. It works pretty good. It's not the most powerful saw in the world, but it does the job. Probably don't need those. Vacuum cleaner on. That's nice and smooth. A little mark right there where it stopped for a second where I didn't push hard. It's kind of freed up. There's a big nasty knot right there. It's nice and smooth. We'll see if that works as good as putting it on a joiner. I've already ran through the planer a little bit. I think I'm done with that. I may have to, they all should be the same thickness right now. Just trying to true up the edges where I can, then I'm going to split them down the middle. I'm going to peg them, dowel pin them, dowel peg them together and glue them. And I'm going to split them in half, glue the halves back straight back together, and then I'm going to glue, peg them all together. And I'm going to try to do my table about 42 inches wide. That's the plan. All right. All right, today, excuse me, I've been sick as a dog. It's taking me forever to get over this. We've had a virus run through the house and ended up getting this respiratory infection. But I'm gonna try to press on and get something done. I've had this joiner sitting around for about a week now. It was in the back of my truck for about 2 days. So we had trouble getting it out. I had about 3 of my buddies come over. We couldn't get it up and get it out. The truck's too high. The machine's just too bulky and awkward. So I ran up to the automotive shop that I share with a buddy of mine, and borrowed his hydraulic table. It worked great. It's he said he got it at Northern. This one's 500 pounds lift capacity. You use them at the shop to pull motors out of the bottom of cars, but you lower the subframe, transmission, and everything down at one time on them. So, and he's got a 1,000-pound one too that he uses, but I didn't have one of my own, so I borrowed John's. Anyway, it's great because it went right up to the tailgate, and we were able to just slide the joiner out right onto the table and lower it down. Well, then I couldn't round up any of my buddies again, enough of them at one time to get it off the damn table. So I ran back up to the shop and I grabbed my engine hoist, and I threw it on my little utility trailer, and I brought it home. And hey, you just got to figure out how to do things yourself. And I'm going to correct myself. This is a 1,000-pound table, not a 500. It's a 1,000-pound. He said he got that at Northern, and he's got 2,200 pounds, the bigger one, and it's a pretty big table. I've had this hoist since I was 17 years old. I bought it at Northern when I was 17. It's been a good one. I've used it professionally for 13 years, running my own shop, and many years before that. I'm 43 now. I bought it when I was 17. Do the math. It's been a good damn hoist. And a million people have borrowed it as well. It's been around the block. Anyway, so I'm just going to lift it up, slide the table out. I bought the cart that goes with this, so you can wheel around the shop. We're trying to sell this house, so hopefully we're not going to be here long. This garage is tiny. I need a bigger workspace. We need some property too. We want to get out of the neighborhood situation, but that's our goals at least. And we're going to get this thing lifted up, slide the table out, lower it into the cart, and go from there. All right, we're back in the shop again today. Went ahead and drilled all my dowel holes, and pegged all these boards together for my tabletop. Got them all glued up yesterday, got them in clamps, and let them sit overnight. It's the first time I ever glued a tabletop up, and it was I had to move a lot quicker than I thought I was going to have to before my glue started setting up. I did a few panels. I think I did did 2 panels first and let them sit just to see what I was working with, and then I did 2 more and put those 4 together, and then I did the rest of the table. So I did like this section, and then I did the rest, which is about half, a little less than half, and then I did the rest. I wish I would have kind of gone a little bit slower instead of just, I got a little bit of a rush and said, I'm just going to put the whole damn thing together at once I got past a few boards. I think you could probably slam the whole tabletop together if you had an extra hand, somebody helping you spread glue. And I did probably too many dowels, so it made it a little more difficult, I think, to put them all together by myself. But I think it's going to turn out great. I mean, it looks pretty good. The lines aren't quite as flush as they were when I was mocking it up after getting them off the joiner. And I did get a new joiner, and I haven't filmed any of that yet. I've been sick as a dog, and I was trying to film every step of this process, or at least a piece of it. But I just got this nasty respiratory infection, cold, head and chest cold deal. I'm still getting over it. So I've been trying to work as much as I can on it, but I just hadn't felt like filming. And you probably wouldn't have wanted to see me hacking every 5 seconds on camera. So, but I got the tabletop glued up. We're gonna pop it out of the clamps, and then we're gonna move on to finishing our base. I've been working on the through tenons, and today I'm gonna work on pegging them. So I've got to do another mortise, and I've got to make some pins or some pegs or keys or whatever you want to call them to pin all that together. And all right, so we're gonna pop this thing apart real quick and See what happens. Well, I know it's going to happen. It's going to stay together. We're going to be fine, but you never can have enough clamps. That's what I've always heard, and they're right. I do not have enough clamps. Good clamps. I bought these clamps at Harbor Freight because they're dirt cheap, but they work fine on small stuff. I don't think they work so great on clamping a tabletop up. I went and bought 4 of these 50-inch Bessies, and they're awesome. They're the Ks. They're a little funky to use sometimes, but I'm sure I'll get used to it after a while, and it won't be a big issue. They have a lot more pressure than sand. All this anyhow. They're kind of stuck. You can get a lot more clamping pressure out of these than you can out of those hand pump cheap Harbor Freight Pittsburgh deals. They work fine for just like clamping projects, holding stuff while you're cutting or whatever, but I just don't think they're up to these level of these Bessies. I'm going to definitely get some more of those. I think I got all of these Pittsburgh clamps for the price of maybe 2 of the Bessies. They are cheap, and they're not bad. You get what you pay for in the tool, man. And I know that. I've been working with tools my whole life. Just not woodworking stuff, so I thought I might just try something cheap, see what happens. We've had the craziest weather in Georgia. It's the second day of spring, and it's went back from 70 degrees yesterday to it's dropping down into the 30s. The wind is absolutely whipping. We had tornadoes the night before. About 30 miles south of here, it destroyed a neighborhood. It's on the south side of Atlanta. We're on the north side of Atlanta. So we missed it. We dodged the bullet on the tornado situation, thank God. Lay those right there for now. Just find a home for them. Grab the camera off the tripod here. I'll give you a closer look. I tried to clean up as much glue as I could with a rag, with a wet rag. I had quite a bit of a squeeze out. Wasn't a perfect squeeze out everywhere, but I had good spread over everything. And there's 2 dowel pins, and I'll put some stills in it to take a couple still pictures. So I've got 2, 4, 6. I've got 8 dowel pins in between each set of boards, and I split these 2x10s and milled them all. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 16, 18, 20, no, just 20. Is that right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. We got 18 dowel pins just across each end, and then 2 more rows in the center. A ton of them, probably way more than I needed on this deal. She's pretty good and flat. These first 2 didn't line up quite as good as I wanted to, and this one here has a little bit of a low spot. I used a Rockler dowel jig and I clamped it down. All my boards are perfectly milled. I don't understand how they got off just a little bit. I used this jig, and it's not perfectly centered. It was a little on the high side. Maybe that's my problem. I'm not sure. I'm puzzled by why this clamping this flat with a clamp and drilling didn't leave everything perfect, but it didn't. It's close, and it's close enough, so I'll be able to sand it all flat. I was hoping to not have to sand as much as I'm going to have to. Right here I can catch my fingernail. It's not a big deal, but it's my first tabletop. It's my first table build, and I'm trying stuff that I've never done before. And I didn't want to use pocket screws. I've read so much bad things about pocket screwing tabletops together, and I'm not doing breadboard ends on this one. I'll try that in the future, but I am going to take the router and chamfer the edges all the way around. Of course, I've got to cut the ends off. So that's it. This wind is absolutely ripping outside. Alright, well I'm gonna finish this base up today, hopefully. We have baseball practice later with the boys. If we can get it in this wind, I doubt we'll have it. They'll probably cancel it. So I'm gonna get to going on this base and work on pegging through here on my tenons. So I'll have to mortise those. I'm going to pop this all back apart, and I'm going to take the router and chamfer the edge on the bottom here, so your legs don't hit the sharp edges underneath. And I'm going to do the same here, and I may do some rounding over after that at the bottom. I don't want to leave it just totally blocky down there. Not real happy with that bottom board, but it looks okay. It's I kind of wish I would have done it out of another 4x4 and just done the top board out of a 2x. That's it for now. I'm going to get going, and I'll try to do a little filming later. Hopefully when I put this all together, it'll make sense. Alright guys, on to the next. Alright, we're going to get on the joiner for just a second and mill up our pieces for our keys for our 3 tenons on the bases. Went ahead and milled up a piece of scrap that I had from the tabletops. Got it all flat on the joiner, and I'll cut me out some I'll make some stencils and I'll lay them out on this. Probably gonna do them about 4 inches long, and maybe two keys for that. Maybe even make a whole set out of this, just so I'll have some extras for future builds. This is just the same Western red cedar that we use for the tabletops. The joiner was starting to catch this knot. It's got a crazy double-sided knot here. So I had a limb going that way and a limb going that way. And it hung up at one spot. Didn't like it. Alright. Something like that. We're going to shape it, see if I like the shape of it. And if I do, then I'll do the other ones just like it. Use this as a template. If not, I'll reshape it. Keep going. Alright, we're back in the shop this afternoon. To do a little sanding on the tabletops. Got a little bit. Alright, we're back in the shop this morning, or this afternoon. Gonna get a little sanding done on the tabletops. I've already done this half in 80 grit. I'm just kind of knocking the glue line off of in between the joints, and getting a couple little nicks and stuff sanded out, and then we'll step it up to like 150 and then 220, and probably stop at 220, and then start the stain. And we're going to use a teak oil on the tabletops. It's going to be at inside outside table, whichever one you prefer, whoever ends up with it. And I think we'll just get going here and let y'all see some of the sanding, which is not very exciting, but we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. How about that? Alright, in this process, in this step of the table build, we have epoxied all the knots and cracks, which there wasn't but a few little small cracks at the ends, and some of these ends will get cut off, but not very far. So we got the all the holes epoxied. This one didn't stay very proud overnight. It sunk, so hopefully it'll sand flat. I don't have to grind it out and refill it or anything. But that's what we're going to do now. It's just the fun process of sanding all this epoxy out and getting this table back flat. Alright. Let the fun begin. I don't think that this epoxy is cured long enough It's kind of gumming up on the surface. Pretty sure it's sand is a hard material and not be gummy like that, like it's melting. Let me give it a couple more hours. Definitely don't want to mess it up. We'll give it a few more hours of curing, and it's cured overnight, but not a full 24 hours. I think I put the last on at about 7 o'clock last night. It's about noon, so we'll give it a few more hours. Find us something else to do, keep us busy. We've been putting the teak oil on the base of the table, and that's about done. It's just drying, and yeah, we'll just have to let this bad boy cure out and go from there. Alright guys, we're back in the shop working on breadboard ends today. I've already done the other side. It's the first time I've ever done breadboards, so it was a little experimental. I don't have a domino, festool, or any of that cool stuff yet. Probably will get one though. So I'm doing it with dowels. I did some experimenting last night. Tried to freehand it. I watched a guy. I'm not going to say any names. So I watched a guy freehand drill and put dowels in, and I attempted it, and it was not successful. I could not keep the drill straight enough, so my breadboards were going to be sloped, and that's no bueno. I'm not going to have that. So I went back to the dowel jig that I used when I doweled all these boards together. And I've done one already, and I'll show you in just a second, just to make sure I can pull it off without screwing it up. And I think it's very successful. I think it turned out great. So we're going to do the second one, and I'll film just a piece of it. I mean, it's basically, I'm setting this jig up, I'm clamping it, I've marked all my lines to my board, to the breadboard. Just took my square and marked a line here to here where my dowels are going to go, and I mean, it's pretty easy as far as that goes, but man, you've got to keep that drill bit straight. If you get off a couple degrees, that dowel is going to be in an angle, and your breadboard is going to be in an angle, and you can't. I mean, that's no good. So that's very important. Drill bit 90 degrees, very important. Only way I could come up with a good solution was to use the dowel jig that I got at Rockler, you know, that I have handy. Of course, the Festool Domino, it looks like a great tool, and hopefully in the future, I'm sure I'll invest in one eventually. But I used 6 dowels. One here, 2 in the middle, which will be locked down, and I did put a bead of glue. So this whole board to the breadboard is locked down solid. And then 2 more. So there's 2 outers, 2 inners, or really 4 outers, 2 on each end, and then 2 in the middle for dowels, 6 dowels. And it seems to be very sturdy. I haven't put a whole lot of pressure on it or anything. I'm not going to try to, but it seems pretty sturdy. No flex at all, but like I said, I'm not putting crazy gorilla strength on it or anything to try to break anything. It's not a test piece. It's an actual table. But all right, so we're going to drill some of these things, and I'm going to drill one. I mean, it's not very exciting. I'm not going to film drilling all 6 of them. It's pretty boring stuff. But basically, I just line my lines up, clamp it down so it doesn't move, and I hold it. Even clamping it will flex around on you. So you just got to go slow and be careful, and you still got to try to maintain your angle. You can't just like close your eyes and pull the trigger. You've got to keep it straight. And you want it to be straight when it goes in the breadboard end too, because you want it to be 90 degrees, then you're gonna oblong it this way for these boards to have movement with humidity changes side to side. But you don't want up and down slop, because then your board's going to be sloppy. You don't want that. So, all right, I'm going to give the old drill a workout. So my dowels that go into the table side are going to be locked. They're going to be glued in. So they're going to be a solid tenon coming off the tabletop. And then your mortise holes, like I said, in the breadboard end are going to be wobbled side to side, not up and down, because you don't want that board to go up and down. You just want it to have movement like this as it expands and contracts. Well, that's it. I'm gonna do the rest of these, and I'll show you the end that I've done. I'm gonna pop this thing out of the tripod, and I'll show you what I've done. And I still have all my epoxy curing. It feels pretty good now. I tried sanding on it a little bit yesterday, but it was still tacky. But it seems like it's hard as a rock now. So it took like 2 days to get it that way. It has been really rainy, and so that's the breadboard end on the other side. And I'll walk around so you can see it. So I used 1/2-inch dowels. I started out, I was going to use these 5/8, like the other fellow that has a video on YouTube did. But it's a pretty big dowel. My boards are about 1.25 inches thick, and so I ended up using it because I just didn't have a good way to keep a 5/8 drill bit straight. So I opted to use the 1/2 inch since I had the dowel jig already for it. And then I went ahead and drilled a 1/4 inch and ran a dowel in it and used a small handsaw, a little flush cut. It's kind of like a Japanese saw, but cheap version, to cut these flat. And then I'll sand the whole tabletop flat. I wanted to get the epoxy sanded off, and then it'll be teak time. Alright, I'm going to go back and drill the rest of these holes and put the dowels in, and I guess I could film a little bit of the dowel insertion when I do that. I'll film a bit of it. Alright, see you in the next step. Alright, so I got all my holes drilled, the breadboards and the tabletop. Just put the dowels in, make sure they look straight. Everything looks good and straight. I'm going to clamp the breadboard down just to keep it secure for a minute while I oblong these holes, the 2 outside holes, the 2 inside holes. These two will be locked down solid. So just the outsides will wobble side to side. Alright, Should have been wearing safety glasses, but I wasn't. It'll be all right. You want them to move side to side just a little bit, but you don't want a whole lot of movement, top to bottom. Alright. We'll throw some glue on these dowels, lock them into the table. And I'll glue this middle board, this section. I'll glue this section down, lock it down, and then the rest will be able to expand and contract in the slots a little bit. Hopefully it's slotted enough where it won't crack a tabletop. We do live in Georgia, so there's a lot of humidity, and I don't know. We'll just hope for the best. Holy shit.